Hey, this is Melissa. I'm on week 6, year 3 of my $100,000 stock experiment. My goal is to double my money. I'm going to share my buys and my sells with you and show you how my portfolio is performing, but it's not recommendations to buy any of these stocks. You need to make your own decisions. According to the IBD at investors.com, the market is in a confirmed uptrend. The S&P 500 had a nice gain on Monday, and then it went sideways for the week and basically held that point. I added this gray dashed line. It's a line that I had added on September 20th, 2019, before when this index was moving up through the area, which I think is support and resistance. The line's at 2963. And you can see at number 1, it was showing support. Number 2, it was showing resistance. 3, support. 4, resistance. And then after 4, when it broke through that line, it had a nice run up with that green arrow. We'll see if number 5 serves as an area of support or resistance at that dashed gray line. The VIX, or the volatility index, has been in the 20s most of the week. Yay! I like this to be between 12 and 16, so we're getting closer. Every time I purchase a stock, I put a stop limit order as my floor. Initially, it's at 8% below my purchase price, and then I raise it as I need to. A new purchase this week is Beam Therapeutics. That solid green line with that orange box is the purchase day and price of my stock. And then the yellow line is, solid line, is that 8% floor. This stock fell somewhere around 6% on Friday, and then it recovered, and it closed in the upper half of the range. So you can see the range is that full length of the red bar, and then the tick mark to the right is the closing price, and you can see that's about halfway. So that's strong when it closes in the upper part of the range. It's better if it closes at the top of the range. But I did go ahead and leave my floor here at that 8%. I use MarketSmith, which is an IBD investors.com product, to screen my stocks. And I liked this stock because the fund ownership has increased substantially over the last 3 weeks, from 43 funds to 80 funds. It's also had 4 up days in a row, which I like. And this RS line, which is the relative strength, shows how it compares to against all the other stocks out there. This one has been going up from 55 to 87. Then on Thursday it was up at 90, and Friday it was up to 91. At that number 1, that's where that start of the RS line is. So it's like that very thin diagonal blue line. I also drew that solid blue line, which shows an area that I think once this stock gets above that point, it's going to take off again. Just my opinion. My stocks sell when the floor gets triggered, sometimes for a loss and sometimes for a gain. Quiddle Corp. I purchased this stock last Friday on the 15th, and then on Monday it triggered my 8% floor and it sold, and it did close lower for the week. So for the time being, it looks like this was a stock I shouldn't be in, and my floor took care of it for me. Enphase. What happened to this stock? It totally fell apart. On Thursday, this stock gapped down and my B1 sold. It did sell for a gain. I had a 6% gain, but my floor is typically only like a 20-cent range, and my B2, it jumped right over that. So that B2 didn't sell, and I had to go in and I canceled that order and then did another sell, and a manual sell, I guess you'd call it. My B2, I lost 11%, which is awful. Overall, I had a loss on this stock of about $30. Sometimes I don't wait for the floor to trigger, and I just go in and sell my weak positions to make room for my stronger stocks. Insight Corporation. I held the stock for almost 5 weeks and I lost 2.5%. I sold it because I wanted to buy Beam Therapeutics. I don't know if that's the right move because this stock went up after I sold it and Beam went down. I sold this stock at the red line. Every week I review my charts and I look for spots to raise my floor. Slack Technologies, stock symbol work. This is my worst performing stock. I've held it just over 2 weeks and it's up 2%. So it meets my hold guidelines. I like to be up about 1% a week minimum. The last 4 days the stock had gone up, and I did raise my floor to that 16-day simple moving average, which is that diagonal green line. This stock is having a hard time moving above 31. Once it breaks through that, it should climb rapidly. It does have earnings in 2 weeks, so we'll have to see what happens there. ServiceNow. This is a repurchase of a stock that I had held for 4.5 weeks recently, and it was up 20%. I put that green arrow and that 20% mark showing you where I bought and sold from my last buy. I've held this buy for a week and it's up just about 2%. I did raise my floor up to that 16-day simple moving average. Chegg. This is a new purchase for me. I just held it the one day. I bought it Friday. It's up 0.7%. I did move my floor up to that 16-day simple moving average, so my loss won't be an 8% if this happens to drop. And I sold my B2 in VEEV so I could purchase this. Chegg is a stock that I've owned before, and I know that in the last few weeks it had that nice gap up on earnings, and then it never fell below that gap up price. It seemed to be consolidating some. On Thursday, I was in the Boston IBD online meetup group, and they were also talking about Chegg. And I texted Franca, my investment friend, and she and I were both saying how we wanted to get this. So on Friday morning, Franca bought it and she texted me that she got it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it too. So we both have it. It will be interesting to see how we manage this stock. It's always interesting to compare notes. Here's the VEEV chart. Like I said, I sold my B2 so I could purchase Chegg. Not sure that's the right move, but we will see. This is a stock I've held my third longest holdings. I usually hold stocks for maybe about 8 weeks. This one I've held for 3.5 weeks and it's up 7.6%, which is a nice gain. It has earnings coming up, I think, on Thursday. Adobe. This stock is moving up nicely, not at hyper speed, but it still has a nice gain. I've held it 3.5 weeks and it's up just about 9%. And I was able to move my floor up to a positive point. So if this does drop and trigger my floor, I won't be taking a loss on this stock. It's nearing its 52-week high, which might be a good add-on buy point. Twilio. This stock made a move on Friday, had a nice gain, and it closed at the top of the range. This stock I've held for 6 days and it's up 9.4%. I did move my floor up to the 8-day simple moving average. Don't let a double-digit gain turn into a loss. Chipotle Mexican Group. This is my second longest holding. I've held it for 4.5 weeks. It had a nice gain last week and it continued that this week. It's up 17%. I raised my floor up to that 8-day simple moving average, and if it triggers the floor, I'll still have a 10% gain in this stock. I'm asking myself why I haven't bought more. Altimmune Inc., stock symbol ALT. I've just held this stock for 2 days and it's up 19%. It's a low dollar cost stock. It was around $6, and I found it in my tandem-like screen that I use in MarketSmith. I'll show that to you in a minute. I raised my floor to 1% above the purchase price. Here's my tandem-like screen. It looks for stocks that have composite ratings over 85, relative strength 98. It looks for prices between $6 and $15, accumulation distribution rating of an A or a B, and the 50-day average volume over 200. And that took the over 7,000 stocks that are tracked in MarketSmith, and it came up with 15 that I could look at, and I liked ALT best. As stocks are proving themselves and making money for me, I like to add to the positions. Shopify. I added to this stock on Monday. I've had it the 1 week and it's up almost 12%, which is crazy. My B1 I've had for 2.5 weeks and it's up just about 20%. And I did raise my floor to 1% above my purchase price of my B2. So if this stock triggers a floor, both my B1 and my B2 are in the money. DocuSign. I also added to this stock on Monday. I've held it for 1 week and it's up just about 9%. I have a B1 that I've held for 6 weeks and it's up 37%. And my B2 I've held for just about 4 weeks and it's up 27%. I raised my floor on this to my 8-day simple moving average, and all 3 buys are in the money if my floor triggers. Datadog. This stock is crazy. I made a B2 on this one on Monday and it's up just about 9%. And my B1 I've held just about 3 weeks and it's up 55%. I raised my floor on Tuesday to the 8-day simple moving average, which was at 64.50, and I am leaving that there right now, but I'll probably raise this floor during the week. I did make quite a few new purchases this week. Here's a summary of them. I indicated where I made a B2 or a B3, and the one in solid red Enphase I sold. It triggered a floor, and Vive I just sold on my own so I could make a new purchase. The current holding bar chart shows that Datadog is screaming, followed by DocuSign, and Chipotle Mexican Group in the light blue is also doing super well. Shopify in the gray is also doing great. So I have a lot of stocks that are really performing well. My weekly percentage change, I sort this with the lowest value on the top. Each box represents 1 week, but the ones that I've only held that 1 week, that is not the weekly gain, that's the gain since I purchased it, gain or loss. So Beam and Chegg I've held for just that 1 week, and they're the lowest performers. I put Work and Vive in a red box because those performed worse than the S&P 500 this week. I do like to see my stocks performing better than the S&P 500. Adobe and DocuSign both had a 5% gain, and then all the way at the bottom, Alt was up 19% this week, and Twilio was up 10%. Crazy. This is my dollar value gain on my B1 purchases, so I only have a loss in Beam. Again, I sort these with the losers on the top. I want to focus on my losers and just give my winners room to keep winning. The industry breakdown shows I'm super heavily invested in software. All in, I have 115,000 in software stocks. And DocuSign, I have 3 buys in, Datadog 2 buys in, and Shopify 2 buys in. After 2 years and 6 weeks, my $100,000 has grown to $162,711 versus the S&P 500 for the same time frame has grown to $111,262. I had a super week this week, over $8,000 gain. About $6,000 came from my existing holdings. About $3,000 came from my new holdings. And then I had a loss of $750 from stocks that I held last week, sold this week. This is the change from week to week, not overall total loss or gain in the stock. Here's my performance for year 1, year 2, and year 3. In the yellow, you can see that the S&P 500 for this experiment year 3, which is 6 weeks long for me, is up 5.9% versus the Melissa method, which is up 12.4%. In the purple is the weekly change. The S&P 500 was up 3.2% versus the Melissa method experiment is up 5.2% for the week. I have just over $4,000 in cash, so I could make a B3 with that. But if I want to make a B2 or a new purchase, then I would have to sell something else. I will spend my week reviewing charts and looking for that increase in volume and increase in price. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for my next episode, or better yet, subscribe to my channel, The Melissa Method. Don't forget to hit the bell if you want an alert when I post a new episode.